Good evening everybody. Here's a brief update on my Sudan Wars collection. I've just completed a small Royal Artillery gun crew and the General Gordon figure I showed earlier, and I suppose a detachment of 17th Lancers. The Lancers, as I say, would probably have been would have been from the later 1890 period. There was only Hussars with the Gordon Relief Expedition, but I decided to go with the Lancers. Quite a favourite unit of mine. I've just added pennants there to the Lancers, and picked out the blankets in a sort of an army blue grey. They've got their little, well, it's a nod to the old what the knights used to wear, the chainmail on their shoulders. They've got the tiny little epaulets of chainmail, and as I say, I've done the base in my new process now of using the correct glue rather than the PVC glue, which used to shed a load of debris. The Gordon figure, as I say, I completed earlier. It probably doesn't pick up on the camera, but he's got eyes on there picked out, and up close he looks a little bit better than the majority of the troops. The artillery figures, I actually I glued everything down, except the gun, of course. I glued everything down and painted them on the base to minimise the handling, and the figures, as I say, just picked out with brown bandoliers and light coffee coloured equipment, and I did all the horses in as chestnuts. I was trying to go for greys, but I'm not very good at horses, I'm afraid. Yeah, the gun crew I was quite pleased with, and overall, you know, not a bad little set, not too many. Didn't get fed up with painting them. I was able to complete them in a fairly quick time, and yeah, I was quite happy with how they turned out. You'll notice the helmets are very much from the 1890s rather than the 1880s, with the little sun visor at the front and at the back, the sort of almost Foreign Legion sort of sun guard for the neck. That's very much from the 1898 period, but you know, really I'm just trying to get a representative force of British and Egyptian, and I'll be going on to the Egyptian infantry next. I've got about 20 figures that I intend to do. Also picked up a book, The First Jihad, by an American author. I'll actually review it later on, but it's a detailed account of the first battles against the Mahdi and Gordon's defence of Khartoum. I've got many books on that period and that particular battle, and it's always good to pick up something different from another angle. This author, as I say, as an American, he's very much relating it to the current struggle against the IS forces, and you know, the sort of radical Islamic forces against the forces of the West. And yeah, it's interesting the way everything comes around full circle, and here we are again, in very similar circumstances really, but no Gordon to help us this time. my next, after I've finished the Egyptians, I've got a I mean, I suppose I've got about 100 or so dervish forces to go. Should be a little bit simpler, obviously. I'm going to put the patch jibbers on them, the little red and blue and green patches on the otherwise white gowns that they would be wearing. That actually came a little bit later, I think. It wasn't entirely uniform, as it were, by that time at the 1880s, but it does liven the colour up a little bit. I've got camel forces, and I'll probably get some Egyptians as artillery. They did, after some early disasters involving the Egyptian army, they did take into their ranks some surrendered Egyptian soldiers, particularly ones that could be of use to them, like the artillerymen. And so the dervishes will have some sort of like stiffening of artillery, but otherwise, yeah, I'm still enjoying this this little project, such as it is, and I've certainly learnt my lesson in that I used to take on too many, really. I mean, even in the 28mm with considerable more detail and facial detail, I used to have to well, I used to make up a box of maybe 30 or 40, and it was sometimes pretty daunting having them in front of you and going through them on a production line sort of system. Whereas, you know, big surprise, but it came late to my thinking. Small batches, it's so much nicer to you know, to be able to get through them a little bit quicker and feel that you're in with a chance of completing them, whereas some of the others, you know, I used to take months. But yeah, quite happy with these. You know, as I say, I'll keep you updated as I pull the figures out, and as I say, the Egyptian infantry is up next in white uniforms, and I'm still quite enthused for the subject, and yeah, I'm gonna stick with it to the end. It's a little bit more inspiring, you know, showing them to you guys, because normally I would just put them in drawers, and that would be the last time they saw the light of day. You know, my humble efforts as they are, you know, it's pleasant to show them if it's of any interest to you, and you know, it does give me a bit of a spur on to carry on with it and finish it up. But yeah, doing quite okay now after my Christmas dramas. As I said before, it's you know, yeah, there can be you know, like some of the other guys have talked about, hitting a wall, and I find it's always dangerous for me to go a couple of days without painting, even for a 20-minute spell, because if I stop, I find it very hard to get started again. So yeah, all in all, enjoying it, and enjoying watching all your videos, and hopefully I will see some of you in April at Salute. All being well. I had health problems last year, so I'm not going to speak too soon, but hope to see you there. Anyway, all the best, guys, and keep painting.